faculty members, students, respected colleagues, ladies and gentlemen who are joining us here at the INCEIF University Lounge and those joining online. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat datang and welcome to INCEIF University for our latest ID INCEIF series entitled Multilateral Sukuk, the ISDB Experience. And allow me to introduce myself. My name is Aiman and I shall be the MC for today's event. Before we kick things off, allow me to go through some housekeeping. Our speaker will present for approximately 45 minutes and we will then open the floor for Q&A session. For those who are in lounge, please raise your hand and wait for the mic to ask your questions for the benefit of the online viewers. And I will also, for the people who are asking questions via Zoom, I will try my best to have all the questions answered within the allotted time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce our speaker for today, Mr. Mustafa Omar, the Senior Capital Market Specialist at Islamic Development Bank, ISDB. Mustafa Omar is a person who holds a big bachelor's in business administration from the International Islamic University in Malaysia and executive master in Islamic finance from INCEIF. He began his career at Bank Islam Malaysia, focusing on Islamic corporate financing and Sukuk issuance. In 2002, he joined Muamalah Financial Consulting in Kuala Lumpur, and from 2006 to 2011, he was based in Riyadh as a consultant for Al Bilad Investment Company. He was also He also engaged in POs and financing deals in Saudi Arabia. Since 2011, he has served ISDB in Jeddah within the Capital Market Division, where he plays a key role in Sukuk issuance, including green and sustainable formats and investor engagement. He manages ISDB's shareholder activities across 57 member countries and his team managed to raise approximately 4 to 6 billion annual USD and contributing to a total of 50 billion USD in Sukuk issuance since 2005. With that, I would like to invite Mr. Mustafa Omar on the platform for the presentation. You can hear us.
Yeah. Second, we are going to chat with you on me. This week, I'm saying what happened. The monster. The bank.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Ladies and gentlemen, I think not too late to wish you Eid al-Fitr. I purposely wear this just to take the vibe of the Eid. So hopefully you can enjoy my presentation today. So basically, I'm not a Sharia scholar. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a bond trader. I'm just the messenger from IDB to share the experience of IDB in the Sukuk issuance. Let me briefly share my experience over there. IDB has been issuing Sukuk at the international capital market since 2005. So you can imagine from 1975 to 2005, about the 30 years period, the IDB operation was funded by equity. And after the financial crisis, the demand for the financing has increased tremendously. So in no way we can use equity anymore. Of course, in the IDB group, there are certain entities still using equities because they still have option to do that. But for IDB, no way. Yes, we can do that if you want. Just to play safe, just use equity money for 500 million fresh equity injection, because I'm also in charge of the equity contribution by 57 member countries. So the pattern of the collection sometimes is not up to the expected level that we need. But at the same time, the funding requirement, you can see from whatever report, from World Bank or United Nations, it is a multi-trillion requirement. But IDB contribution, we have been in the market since 1975. Now, our total balance sheet size is barely $40 billion. You can see it's very, very small as compared to the total requirement. But even that, we still keep on issuing Sukuk for our operation. So to to stress here, we still need to go to the market regardless of the scenario, unless we decide, halas, we don't want to do to the market anymore because of the criticism, because of the complaint, because it is not easy, by the way, in fact, to have a crystal clear, watertight, Sharia compliant structure that may please everybody. Because at the end, when we go to the market, we have to decide. When you structure the sukuk, the product, it is you produce what you sell, or you sell what you produce. Okay, it's two different things. At the end, because we need the money, because the funding need is there, is big. So if we really want to have something that we want to issue, we don't care about the investor. At the end, we just launch the product and nobody take it. So we need to strike a balance between our internal requirement and the investor demand also. Investor put the term, because apparently IDB Sukuk, I could say 90% of the investors are conventional investors. Because why? One of the reasons is a AAA paper. It is not easy to sell AAA paper, actually. It's very surprising, right? Because why? Because the yield is very low. If I'm not sure whether you have a Bank Negara representative here. Bank Negara have been supporting us since the beginning, from day one until now, without fail, which I really salute them. Despite the yield is very low. It's very tight for them, you are very tight. But because their mandate is quite different, not purely for commercial reason, and whenever we go to the public, they usually put minimum 50 million. Or recently, it's quite big ticket, which I believe something is happening at the back. Maybe Prof also involved in this to increase the participation. Okay. As I mentioned to you, the sukuk structure that we produce, we sell to the international market. By the way, we are the only AAA frequent issuer in the international market. There's no institution, Islamic institution in the world, we have the same credit rating like IDB Sukuk, AAA, frequent issuer. Because every year we issue minimum 4 to 6 billion. So you can imagine the amount of engagement to spread, to diversify our investor base. Because we cannot rely on the traditional anchor investors, because they have certain limit. At one point, they will finish the limit. Okay, because each time we go to the market, let's say they put in 50 million, if you go to the market for 2 or 3 times, it's 100 million for this cent. And a 5 years paper, okay, their limit is 500 million, it's finished. Okay, we really have to diversify our investor base. That's why within our team, this is a prolonged and continuous journey to place or to attract more investor base for our AAA paper, which gave very low yield, okay, because it's very secured paper by credit definition. And in terms of structure, as I mentioned to you earlier, for any single structure, we need to please all stakeholders to the extent possible, especially the Sharia people, and the Sharia is evolving. You can see even in our structure, we can see since I joined 2010, but before that, 2005, when the first structure was published or introduced, the asset composition is this also the challenging part that we really need to really, of course, to really analyze our balance sheet dynamics, okay? Because our structure is based on securitizing the existing asset, okay? And most of our products, okay, is project financing. And our mandate is to give the lowest, the most competitive rate as possible to the member country to ensure you are still relevant. So if we give more than commercial banks rate, we are not relevant anymore. So these are the challenges. That's why sometimes we keep on thinking, why we keep on asking, why we keep on stressing on AAA issuance, because we want to make sure, because at the end is there's cost to be passed through to the member countries, and eventually most of our member countries, the beneficiary, we have 57 member countries, by the way. Okay, the beneficiary mostly for the funding is the LDMC countries from the African side. Okay, so they don't have capability to go to the market because they are not even rated. If they go to the market, for sure, it's either a junk rate, okay, it's like junk bond, which is not economical for them, and the commercial rate is they cannot take it because the financing period is maybe 5 to 7 years. So for IDB, it's just like World Bank, African Development Bank, Asian Development Bank. These are our sisters, our group of MDBs, Multilateral Development Bank. By the way, MDB is owned by 57 countries. The owner is the government, including government of Malaysia. Just like World Bank. But World Bank, they have membership from all over the world. Asian is from the Asia part. Africa from Africa. IDB, you can imagine, is just like smaller version of the World Bank. See? Where the member countries are from Asia, from Europe, from Africa, from GCC. Mostly, there's precondition, they must be member countries of the OIC. So the latest member was Guyana in 2016. Whenever we go to the market, the challenge, one of the challenges is we have member countries which are on the sanction list. Okay, so how we want to manage this? These are among the challenges that, because my job with other colleagues, we have keep on going to the world, to the Europe, to the Hong Kong, Korea, all these things, because as mentioned to you, we need to further diversify our investor base, because we can't afford to rely on the existing investor base. Because at the end, the limits will be go up and the funding requirement will be increasing, because our balance sheet keep on growing in tandem with the funding requirement of the member countries. Go back to the structure, where whenever we do have a structure, we need to please all stakeholders to the extent possible. Let's say for them from the legal perspective, from the accounting perspective, even for the IOF guideline, even our internal Sharia, even our investor requirement. Being AAA does not necessarily or does not guarantee your issuance will be AAA. This is the challenge, because unlike bond, the issuer is the institution itself, the obligor itself. But for IDB, for Sukuk structure, most of the time we have the SPV to carve out the income generating asset. To the SPV, basically this asset belongs to the investor, to the Sukuk holders. And then this asset, the income generated, is to be shared, actually belong to the investor. But when you go to the detailed part of it, there are so many things that we need to really careful, especially from legal, from the accounting. Let me give you one example. Even the challenge from this new draft IOF 62 is really, really challenging. Okay, I believe you are involved in the consultation, even the drafting, for the accounting, from the compliance. So at the end, until now, we are still discussing with them, your industry even. This is the requirement of the industry. Because, like I mentioned to you earlier, at the end, you cannot just publish something, but nobody follow the thing. Or you just sell something, nobody buy to the thing. You sell very fully Sharia compliant paper, but nobody want to buy it. For instance, you the Dana gas, you remember? And to test the market, is really want to test or they want to pay? Is something that to be discussed or to be debated. But at the end, we have to really balance out this thing. Because like us, we can't afford, especially we can't afford to stop issuing the Sukuk because we are just like a big ship, 40 billion asset, we are moving, okay, in the ocean, very big ocean. So this is the fuel. The funding is the fuel for the ship to move forward. We can decide, halas, we don't want to do any more business, just take equity money. We just can imagine the volume of financing that we can give. Maybe 400 the most, rather than 2 billion, 4 billion approval every year, where even that, the amount is very, very small as compared to the real requirement. We just imagine to reconstruct the after-war destruction in all our member countries, like in Iraq, Libya, in Palestine. It's very big amount. It's not small amount. But how much we can give to them? That even in African country, many of the human beings still living in $1 per day income. So if nobody want to help, you can imagine what would happen to that. So if you look at the IDB annual report, you can see the photo that they put there. I believe most of our funding and financing is more on the social. Okay, of course we have green part. By the way, MDB function is go beyond the financial economic aspect. The three pillars: economic, green, and people. So we are more under the social part, the people, and the planet, the green. Of course, we have to go to that way also. But I personally believe, and even the bank, if you look at the portfolio, most of the financing is for the social part, for the people, to have the basic need. This is also the maqasid sharia, the daruriyah, himayatul din, himayatul mal, himayatul nasl, all these things, which need to be observed. Even though we cannot really reflect that in the mission statement just clearly like that. But at the end, that is the direction that we are heading. I will share you on the pricing, because we, as I told you, we keep on going to look for the investors who are looking for the very high quality papers, which is IDB's paper, AAA paper. How we arrive to that based on the structure, I just leave it to you to study how the structure works. But basically, we are securitizing the existing financing portfolio that we have. So that by itself is self-discipline. We cannot simply issue IOU paper without any underlying project with that. Even that is also the challenge, because to maintain AAA, for instance, I give you an example, it is quite a costly job, costly exercise. We have to maintain very good capital ratio, CAR, or capital adequacy ratio, where IDB's CAR capitalization is about 30%. It's compared to the commercial bank, maybe 8%, 11%, the equivalent part. So you can imagine the amount of security you put there to make sure we are really, really strong to maintain the AAA. And the liquidity level also. Because of this sometimes uncertainty, the rating agency will step in, look, guys, we need to revise the liquidity ratio in case you cannot raise the money up to 2 years, 24 months. Given your standing Sukuk is there, okay? Now, from the 18 months, now they put 24 months. So you can imagine the level of liquidity that we need to maintain. If you look at our balance sheet, 1/3 of our balance sheet size is in the liquid asset. Because this comes with a cost. Whatever amount of money, the rates, on top of the equity money, we just to add on for the liquidity amount to make sure we have enough buffer to withstand any uncertainty. Even especially now, the tariff here and there, tomorrow you will read from the news, from 34%, 60%, or because 100%, nobody knows what's the limit. So the uncertainty is there. Even yesterday, we have market update call in the investment bank to say the future direction of our issuance. Because this year, our issuance is about 4.5 billion, of which around 4 billion is to refinance the existing Sukuk. By the way, our issuance mostly is in public format, okay? 5 years, fixed rate. And our asset, 15 years, 20 years, okay, sometime. So you can imagine one project, you have to roll over the Sukuk for 3 or 4 times. So you can imagine the amount of rollover, the risk of refinancing is there. Because after 5 years, we do not know what's going to happen to the rate, go up or down, because this is fixed rate on the project side. But this is typical balance sheet criteria of even any commercial bank, because we don't have collect deposit, we just based on the Sukuk. As at now, out of 4.5 billion, we are at 50%, the funding that we have for the raise, where the remaining 50%, 2-point-something billion, we have to decide whether to raise now or just wait. But if you wait, the risk is we do not know what's going to happen to the market. Okay, maybe the risk will go up, but the investor just play safe. That is something that we really need to decide when we want to go to the market. Because if you notice this year, January, February, all of the MDBs, they do the front loading because the uncertainty of the future rate. And maybe some of them already reached 70%, 80% of funding requirement, just like World Bank. The funding size is about 60 to 80 billion per year. You can imagine how much money they have to raise. But for us, it's 4 to 6 billion, as I told you. And that also is not that easy, even though the amount is small, because for them, they just issue IOU. For us, we have another layer of transaction to identify the underlying Sukuk asset. And this is also the challenge, because as I told you, the Sharia requirement is evolved. Like the underlying asset definition from 67%, okay, for the tangible asset. And definition of tangible also, sometimes they have to tweak here and there. And I remember 2011 and 2012, we reached to the level where we don't have enough tangible asset to support the Sukuk issuing. What we have is intangible. Intangible basically is the debt. Okay, the debt means istisna, okay, murabaha, all these things. You have the asset, but we cannot use everything as underlying Sukuk asset because we cannot trigger the tradable part of the buy or dine, something like this. Even now, some of our asset component, they want to redefine, reclassify as intangible, not tangible. For instance, like istisna asset. Because we used to argue, for instance, istisna in Malaysia, for instance, is parallel. Okay, we buy and sell on day one. But in GCC, they buy, they complete, and they sell. So during this period, this disbursing period, we call it, the asset essentially belong to us, not to the customer yet. Okay, let's say you want to put up a building, the project. During the construction, until it is finished, it's technically belong to the bank, to IDB. Once completed, then only you sell to the member country. Once you sell to the member country, then it's become like murabaha, like receivable. Because this also, they may review this, because to them, one istisna is considered receivable from day one, for instance. And even the asset component in the underlying asset will keep on expanding. When 205, the definition of asset only ijara asset, okay, imagine, it is not easy to have ijara asset, but remember country. Because they may argue, some from the legal, the legal department of any member country, they may argue, once you do ijara, basically, can you sell the asset to the IDB? How could you sell? For instance, under the national land code of the country, they may not allow to sell the asset, the strategic asset, the government asset, call it airport, the dam, the school, to the foreigner. Okay? Because we have to lease back the thing, the financier. These are among the challenges, but not all countries have that understanding. Okay? That's why you can see, we have auditor here. Okay? Sometimes they argue, yes, we have to push up the ijara asset, but in reality, that is not that easy. Because ijara is, I think, one is the most preferred debt structure for any sukuk issuance. That's why if you see any maiden issuance by the sovereign, start with ijara. For the second one, it's finished. Let's say they issue 1 billion USD, ijara sukuk. They collect all the hospital, all the government building, okay? The securitas become for the sukuk issuance. If they issue for one-off, it is okay. But for us, we can't do that. Because the portfolio, the ijara may be 20% of our total financing portfolio. Now we go almost 100% of the total balance sheet there. We have already almost securitized it. So we need to think, maybe beyond this, what are the structures that we can use to facilitate our issuance process? Maybe we go to the asset light, okay? Maybe we create the murabaha, commodity murabaha, just like Middle East. Even this is quite common now, because at the end they don't have underlying sukuk asset, okay? To facilitate the issuance. That's why we need to create asset, audit the accounting firm, to assess whether or not this is feasible from the accounting perspective. And then when they read the documentation, okay, at the end, you will buy back, right? So the true sale definition, you cannot tick the box for that. Because if true sale is just outright sale, remove the balance sheet, you take the cash. But because you know there is undertaking to buy back at the end, which is one of the preconditions by the investor to make sure the principal is returned back, okay? And this undertaking to purchase is by the IDB, which will make this paper a AAA. Because at the end, whenever we issue the sukuk, this is also another challenge. When IDB is a sukuk, basically it is not IDB who issued it. It's the SPV. SPV is separate entity. But we look at the balance sheet, because basically IDB just sell the asset, take the sukuk proceed from the SPV. The issue basically is SPV. This is also the thing that I asked the audit firm, the accounting, the finance department, the accounting department, how you treat this. Because logically it doesn't make sense. We are not the issuer, okay, this SPV. And to do the link of this is not that simple, because depend of the structure that you use. If investment just like mudarabah, musyarakah, or wakala, okay, they fall under investment definition. Unlike the istisna, murabaha, or ijara, the debt structure, the buy and sell. So these are also the challenges that we have to face, because at the end, we want to link the IDB AAA to that issuance to make sure this paper is AAA, which is linked to IDB. But why don't you use asset back? Okay? Why don't IDB use asset back? As I told you, most of our financing portfolio is to the least member country, least developed member country, which are not rated even sometimes. So basically, the average asset rating, the most I can see maybe BBB. So if you want to do asset-backed securities, the most that you can achieve is BBB, which doesn't make sense for IDB to raise a paper at BBB price. Of course, we can raise if you want. Okay, just like junk bond, junk paper, you have to pay maybe 15% or 12% instead of 2 or 3%. Because at the end, you have to pass on this cost to the member country. So what we do, basically, yes, the asset is required, underlying asset is required to facilitate the issuance, but we have to find a mechanism how to improve the credit of this paper, okay? The credit quality of this paper. This is where the quote-unquote capital protection element is there. So for those students, I believe this is a very hot debate in the class, even industry, even the Sharia scholar. This is something that you really need to find a way. If direct guarantee is not allowed, maybe purchase undertaking. Even purchase undertaking, if you read as a guaranteed indirectly, something that raises the question mark. Even actually, purchase undertaking is fine. I think Sharia already settled down on that. But it's a matter of what is the price. If at the market price, it's fine. You can undertake to purchase. But at the end, investor don't want to listen to that. What I want to see is the purchase undertaking to cover the principal at the end. So these are the challenges that we need to address. Let's talk about the pricing. Okay. Whenever we meet investor, we have been in the market since 2005 until now. It's almost 20 years or 18 years. We told them, we are AAA paper, but we are paying AA. Some to single A, you can imagine that. We still have to pay premium. So basically, World Bank, African Development Bank, Asian Development Bank, they are AAA. If we go to the market, we compare on the same day, okay, we can see the spread differences is around 10 to 20 basis points above them. Okay, so basically we are just like AA issuer, despite we claim we are BBB. Is it fair? Is it just because this is something that we cannot force them to take? Because to that, the word Sukuk immediately trigger Sukuk is emerging market product, regardless from where it is. Number two, maybe, where is your headquarters? Okay, like let's say Petronas issue. At the end, it's sovereign rating, the best they can go. Just like Saudi Arabia, the most is single A, for instance. So that is still there in mind, even though we are separate. We are owned by the 57 member countries. And the noises, the disruption by this existing issue like Dana gas case. Because, and then investor keep on asking this sometimes. Whenever we meet investor, so what happened to Dana gas? What is it the same structure that you have with this, for instance? Because to them, Sukuk is one Sukuk. But in reality, Sukuk can have diverse, multiple structures, which we always told the investor. Our structure is at the end is senior unsecured. So basically, this is what they want. Even though you have asset, we don't want your asset. Because your asset is BBB, the most is single A for the asset. We want the AAA there. So they rely on the IDB's credit rating for them to purchase. But you can imagine whenever we go to the market, when we go to the pricing, for instance, let's say today, we go to the market, we announce the price guidance. This is always the challenging part because the investment bank, they want easy job. Okay, just want to close the deal because they want to tarnish reputation. The same with us. We also don't want to tarnish our reputation. We announce, suddenly we cannot close the deal. But it may happen in the near future. Not only IDB, it's other institutions because of this tariff issues. Because even I heard yesterday, they have a long discussion, one of the triple issuer, whether or not go or no go call. Very long. It's normally 5 minutes or 3 minutes call. Because they have many opinion whether or not they can achieve the price that they want to achieve, and whether or not they can achieve to the size that they want to go. Because for them, 2-3 times our subscribe is the book size is normal. But for IDB, so far that I've seen, it is not that easy. Okay, let's say you want to issue 1 billion. Sometimes we are struggling to have that, because one of the pricing, one because of the limit constraint by the existing investor. Once they have fully utilized the limit that they have for the investment, and even many investors, many banks, international bank, even though they are in our panel as a JLM, joint lead managers and the arrangers, some of them, they still cannot invest in Sukuk. But we need that for the present in the globally, okay? Like big investment bank, we need that. We tried for the regional bank, the member country bank, it's not that easy. The most they can go maybe 500 million. It's the same investor, which you told them, even if you're not there, we have access to the investor directly, because this traditional investor that we have in our trade. So at the end, this is also the challenges, because they themselves cannot invest in Sukuk under the investment policy. Because why? Many reasons. Okay? To them, even let's say for instance, I share our experience to go to Japan and to China. Okay, we know they like our credit. Yes, your paper is AAA, we like it, but not liquid in the secondary market, because whenever they buy, they must have the ability to buy and sell easily, because it's part of the liquidity portfolio that they manage. So imagine they buy something, but it's not that liquid. The HQLA, high quality, is yes. The LA sometimes is still question mark. It's not that easy. But why it's not liquid? There are so many reasons for that. Because we are not one of them. Our size, even though looks or sound big, but from the bond market, it's very small, very tiny. Until now, the existing outstanding Sukuk is maybe 800 billion, okay, 600 billion. IFM report they have annually. Maybe this year a bit higher, the outstanding. That's it, outstanding compared to the multi-trillion bond outstanding. It's very small. And even then, our investor, mostly it's the central bank. I think whenever we issue to the public, more than 50% is central bank. Because central bank basically just buy and hold. So not only the outstanding is low, the buyer also, they buy and hold. So you can imagine, there's no enough supply in the market to trade. So that even make the thing more illiquid. Because this illiquidity issue, the investor ask for the premium. Because to them, why should I buy your paper if I can buy the World Bank paper? Whenever I want to sell, maybe immediately I can sell. Your paper maybe 2 or 3 days, for instance. 10 years ago, maybe 1 week. I think now much better, but still, as compared to other papers, this is quite illiquid. So all these uncertainties, the liquidity issue, the Sukuk name, the structure, will add on the premium to the price. That's why. So you just calculate by yourself, do the math. Current outstanding 25 billion. If each issuance we pay 10 to 15 basis points above other MDB, how much the waste, okay, the extra cost that we have to pay to the investor, which this amount of money can be utilized for the benefit of the member country. But of course, these are the challenges that we have to face This is the reality of the thing. We have to go to the market, regardless. Okay. But why we don't you issue mudarabah musyarakah? Yes, we can do that. But are you willing to pay 20 or 100 basis points above that, above the current ones? Okay. Of course, eventually we may issue mudarabah or musyarakah maybe for the tier 1 capital requirement if we need. But so far, we are very well capitalized. We don't need that. But if you notice, recently, in the GCC, they show many tier 1 issuance, which they pay easily 2 or 3 notches above their senior paper. So basically, this is not suitable the funding. This is suitable for the equity, for the capital buffer for them to increase the capital. Okay. Other thing that I need to stress here is the investor base. As I told you, when we go to the market, how you do the pricing? Okay, basically there are many ways, many angles that we can analyze to do the pricing. It is based, now we use SOFR, 5-year SOFR rate. Okay, and even SOFR we have to be careful because we have overnight SOFR, which is backward looking, okay, or forward looking because it's compounding every day. So the rate will appear at the end of the period, okay, which is not allowed at this moment, okay. But what we have now is just like LIBOR SOFR. A rate is available there, it's already there. So we have the mid swap rate, okay, it's also 5-year SOFR. Whenever we issue, what is the base? We just plus the margin spread. Our last issuance was 54 basis point, 53 basis point. This is also another angle that, as I told you earlier, sometimes JLM, the ranger, just want to have very easy job. Okay, they go as high as possible with the argument that we want to attract as many investors as possible in the order book. But at the end, they said we can press the price down until we reach the landing point that you want. Okay. But we tried this because they said, you see the other MDBs, they do this thing. They even squeeze from the price guidance until final pricing 5 to 10 basis points, which is very good if we can do that. But in reality, whenever we issue, the order comes at reoffer price. Okay. Reoffer price basically, they will come at whatever price we agreed at the end. But of course, we cannot be very far away. We have to look at the previous trade. Okay? Normally, the spread we go is 2 to 3 basis points, sometimes just 1 basis point. As I remember, at one time, we tried to squeeze the margin by 1 basis point. Many investors run away. Okay, this is a reputational risk, the trade risk. We can't afford to have, yesterday you have book size of 2 billion, suddenly we have settled the price, become 1 billion. This is we have to be very careful on this because this, when you go to the market, see this paper is not really good enough. So basically, when we do the pricing, we have basically to have anchor investor with us, the central bank, to support the order book, okay? This the friendly investors, they like to say this, to give the support, which we also need them. We need their support. As I mentioned to you, 50% of our investors are central bank, but now we need to really go outside this scope. And we need to find other investors to really support. And for this, now we try our best to penetrate this Euro investor from the EU. But that is also not that easy because our issue is mostly in dollar. For the European investor, Germany, London, Luxembourg, okay, Scandinavian, most of them, they need euro. But alhamdulillah, next year onward, our requirement for the euro is increasing. Okay, that's really help. But the challenge is, most of them, they want to see our paper as IsDB eligible. So basically, when the bank buy our paper, they can use this to get for the liquidity facility from the central bank. So these are the hurdles that we still looking. Because why? One of the reasons, because our structure, they read our structure as just like asset bank, even though we tell them this is not asset bank. Because when you read that under that, this cannot fall under IsDB eligible because this is different animal. Because when they read, even though we told them, this is senior unsecured just like World Bank paper. So basically when you go to that market, we are not on the level playing field with them. So because of that, it's very limited numbers of investors that we have. I think I just pause at that to give opportunity for any question, or I can continue. By the way, I forgot. I thought I should use the slide here. Yeah. I think that's okay.
I agree.
Yeah, you have any question, physical or online, but not the hot topic, please. But yeah, the speed of the raya. Okay. Because as I mentioned to you, the Sharia aspect particularly.
If you want that.
Of course, we have to observe this, the Sharia structure. Okay. I just use this slide because this is a summary of all the discussion.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. To
What
what extent you want to accommodate the Sharia? Even the Sharia also, we have different thought. Okay? Like in Malaysia, maybe in Canada, in Middle East, okay, in Africa. So which Sharia scholar that we want to use? But the end, IDB is represented by all these countries. So far, they agree on this. But in future, you may see different. Okay, but as it is now, it is like the current structure. Okay, let me touch you a bit on the sustainable.
Yeah.
This is the evolution of the underlying asset that I told you. You see, in 2010, the left side, even though 51%, it was reduced from 66% before when we initially launched the Sukuk, and mostly Ijara asset. After that, we're stuck. No more Ijara asset. So we open up to the other asset. Shares, Sukuk certificate, and the installment sale, and it's stuck. So, but now the current program, because by the way, our issuance is based on the program, 25 billion multi-currencies Sukuk issuance program, which allow us to issue at any time, okay, in any currencies, as long as that jurisdiction allow us to do that. Okay, like, but in Malaysia, we cannot issue ringgit based on the current program to allow that. That's why when we issue ringgit, we establish different stand-alone program, okay. We issue local currency Sukuk also in Malaysia, I think 10 years ago, for the local currency project. I think three projects, including the Sharia Court there, and the highway, the 2 highways, okay? But they finished already. This is also the challenge. I remember, the auditor just keep quiet, huh? I remember when the rate at one time go down, okay, went down, the ringgit rate. So you can imagine, because when we structured the Sukuk, ringgit Sukuk that time, the Sukuk profit rate was 4.5%, around that, okay? The project, 6%. So we have 2% margin there, okay? Because both are fixed rate, so naturally hedged, okay? But when the rate go down, very low, below the Sukuk cost, so they come to us to reduce the financing rate, because otherwise, why should they pay the CFO hundreds of thousands when we take IDB financing at 6.5% fixed rate, when the market now only 3%? Okay? So they said, because this is Sukuk, okay, and this Sharia project, the project is fixed rate, they can't give the reduction. So what happened then? They just redeem that because other bank pay off their project. So what happened to the Sukuk? The Sukuk is still paying 4.5, and this become cash. The cash at that time generated 1% or 2% only. Can you imagine that? The challenge about that. And when we went to issue the Sukuk, we cannot bid. Okay? Let's say government papers. Even though a AAA, Malaysia is single A. But because of ringgit, they can print ringgit. So in no way we can price better than the government. This is quite new. Even World Bank also have these challenges. I still remember this one investment bank that there was, no, you can price because at AAA, they are single A. Cannot. And then we try to price that, everybody run away. Because why should I buy your paper if government can give better price, better return? So these are the challenges. So you can see the evolution of the asset dynamics. If you look at the balance sheet, there's a growth. We have to accommodate this requirement also. That's why you can see in 2020, the new Sharia pronouncement, they expand the definition of underlying asset that can be used to back up the Sukuk issuance. I think I already touched this. Even though we have been in the market for almost 20 years, of course, now it's getting better and better. I remember last time it's 20-25 basis points above World Bank. Now the last rate was maybe 13%, 13 basis points, 1 or 15. But it's better. But still, we believe we deserve better price than this. And our secondary curve also just stopped at 5. Okay, when we want to issue, they normally just look at the secondary yield. What's the yield and what's the new issuance? Okay, we argue with that. The secondary does not reflect the fair price because our paper is not liquid. That's why the yield may be at the time 5% all in. 5% represent mid swap plus maybe 60 basis point. But we want to price, we argue, we want 50 basis point because 60 is very far away from other NDB, maybe 30 basis point. So we have to try to push. This also the challenges because they simply want to say, if you offer at this price, nobody want to buy because they can take from the secondary. And yes, they buy also. I remember one bank in Malaysia, they get caught on this. They buy because we price below the secondary level. Let's say at that time was 60 basis point, we price as 55. We price at this, if they buy at MTM, mark to market, so they have to, the pricing, the counting, they have to adjust to the secondary. So we go to the market, we float, and we go down. We go under par. So become 0.95 or 0.92, they hit the P&L straight away from day one. These are among the challenges. So what they do normally, they have, I always told them, if you want to buy, make sure from HTM portfolio, hold to maturity at cost, regardless of the movement, you just report at par. This is I remember up to 400 million they have our holding at that time. After that, I cannot see the name anymore because that really hit them. It's very painful. I see, so this is an example when do our pricing, the last trade. So since AIB, the secondary is 37 basis point there, the spread there, the second last row. Okay? Our secondary was at 55. The same day, get the same paper, triple paper, but this is the reality of the secondary. So how you to demand for 35, your secondary 55? It's difficult. So how to improve this? We have to really improve the secondary level, secondary trade, okay? Whether we have to encourage them to, there's a market maker for the secondary. Unfortunately, or fortunately, because we need central bank support to buy, but they buy and hold, so they don't sell. So the bid and ask spread is very wide. So there's some other challenges that it's continuous effort for us to do. This is also among the things that we really need to consider, because at the end, it is the investor who dictate the thing. Because we cannot force them to take something that we want to sell. It is what they want, because they have many options available. So this is the current job that we are looking for, that to improve the secondary level, especially the repo eligible for the European investors. The benchmark, that's why we can see for the issuance, for central bank especially, whenever you want to come in, you must have benchmark issuance, minimum $1 billion. So even though our funding, let's say for the beginning of the year, we have enough liquidity, want to go to the market, we still have to issue at minimum 1 billion. Otherwise, we cannot achieve benchmark and they cannot enter, they participate because of the investment policy. So why you do for the tail end then? That's the risk. Because most of the time we can see the pattern of the MDBs, the first quarter, the mostly second quarter, they finish the funding. We don't want to take the risk so much because we don't know what's going to happen there. Maybe the book is very clean for the investor, they just buy and relax. After the summer and year end, they just, you don't want to go. If you want to go to the market, the price is crazy. You must offer, instead of 50 basis points, you give 60, I take. Otherwise, we don't want to take. So these are the dilemma. At the same time, because if you do front loading, this excess liquidity, you can imagine, because you have to invest in the short-term paper, money market, wherever. If the curve is normal curve, it's negative carry. You issue at 5%, you place as money market at 3%. So it's a negative carry. But now, fortunately, the curve is inverted. The 6 months is higher than this. But this is a return time, but not very controversial. Please. Yes. How I leave it to the chairman.
So circular, that's why development project and generate you come and pay the coupon dividends to this out. And then you tell us more about the projects that we got to book time utilization of this.
Okay. Actually, IDB's mission, if you read the mission statement, is poverty alleviation. And social does not necessarily mean grant, does not necessarily mean free. Okay? Social is social related. For instance, you build a school or infrastructure. You still charge the profit rate when you give financing to the member countries, but it is at concessional rate as compared to commercial. Of course, we have grant portion if it's free, but that is very limited. Even we call a loan part, we have loan in IDB, called 𝗜𝗡𝗖𝗘𝗜𝗙. We have fees on that. I think the Sharia allow up to 0.75% or 1% for the admin fee only. That's why we look at our balance sheet, we call it loan, 𝗜𝗡𝗜𝗓 loan. But that is very limited because that's mandate under ISFD, which maybe will be reviewed. Prof maybe will comment on that after this. Because we was IRT before, okay? At the end, yes, we generate income and profit, but not at the commercial rate like if other banks offered, commercial bank offered. It is still fall under definition of social when it relates to the social development, for instance, school, all these things. It's not a grant per se that we understand. I hope I answer you. Yeah. Yes.
So please, when it comes up, I'm from Birmingham, but basically, thank you so much for reviewing the entire marketing sector on the Sukuk, how we issued and everything. I got 2 questions, but very simple question, inshallah.
firstly, okay, we started some Sukuk structure under IDB, and then we see some kind of like innovation providing this structure, especially in 2020 Sukuk insurance. I think it's something that shares everything high as visible.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But I think one of the things that is quite prominent is particularly when the issues like Sukuk. So they will usually consider the part of the guarantee part. But IDB actually put the guarantee as very explicit. Okay. Okay, so we just want to know, if basically can shed some light or based on instruction behind that. Okay, if they based on instruction fixed behind the scene. Secondly, what is still the average to cover ratio for their Sukuk ratios at banking? Thank you.
I think the first question was quite a controversial question, which, of course, because we live in a real world. I mention to you.
And we will get you the slide.
Yeah, okay. You can do the first slide? Okay.
So I can do that man. So I got you that.
Oh, correct. The first slide that. Oh, sorry. Actually, when one of the reason we have stand-alone program for ringgit, when we go to documentation and the Sharia part discussion with the local authorities, they raised this question actually. And at the same time, SMP, there is a question because when they see the ringgit structure, they don't have explicit guarantee. And suddenly everybody got panic. Because they told us, if you don't change the structure, the ringgit structure, like your global structure, your multi-currencies, it may be the rating will be downgraded. Okay. So that resulted, we redeemed that Sukuk because we didn't want to say rating agency downgrade our ringgit Sukuk. Okay, because here they agree on the purchase undertaking, but at the fair market value, not at par. Okay, there's a very tiny line, very one single word in the voluminous document, redeem at par. Just one word, it changed the whole thing. Okay, so whether or not you're comfortable with that is another story. Because some argue, like local rating agency, they can accept this. Because to them, IDB as a whole is a AAA. They will never allow the paper to be delinquent, defaulted. Okay? They will honor the obligation at the end. So, of course, there are so many ways. Maybe we over-collateralize the underlying asset. Instead of 100%, 120% underlying asset, we can use that as an argument. But from the rating agency, especially international rating agency, we can remove all the asset. We don't care because we don't rely on the asset for the rating. It's from you, the obligor, which is AAA rating. That's why we still keep on preserving this, and this IOF standard, the new one, maybe a bit challenge for us, because so far we managed to mention this, and we have in close discussion with the Sharia on this. As long as the Sharia pronunciation is still there, okay, it is okay. But I cannot guarantee in the future. But as I told you, it is at the end the many stakeholders we need to please to the extent level possible. Because at the end, it is not. I can give an example because, like, I remember when I was in Bankul Bilad, when ABIC, the investment arm, want to underwrite the IPO, we have to have extra capital. So our Sharia say we can take subordinated loan from the parent. They would loan, even they can pay interest. Because to them, this is father and son. You can charge interest. That's their opinion. The same with IDB. It is public companies, okay, owned by the 57 government. Maybe they based on that argument. And of course, from our legal counsel, they say, because this SPV, when we draft the documentation, you read it. This SPV is totally third party, independent from IDB. That's why they allow this to give guarantee to the SPV. Because we sold, that's why, but they give a caveat on that. That's why when you sell the asset, you need to remove the asset from the valuation of IDB. They want to treat it as purely true sale. But we want to implement that. The accounting firm say it is not true sale because you have purchase undertaking. At par or at market value is another story. That's why we just settle at that ground, at that point. But if you remove this, unfortunately, maybe S&P will raise the issue. Yes, we can do that if you want, but maybe the rating will be, there's a flag there, or maybe they maintain that. If you, maybe sometimes it's a matter of we argue the thing. Because just like it. Because at the end, you invest with IDB, it's AAA. In no way we will not honor the financial obligation as long as we are able to do that. Because there are many parameters to maintain AAA. We have the liquidity buffer, it's enough. We have 15 billion liquidity buffer. Okay, let's say for the issuance for 1 year, if 4 or 5 billion, we can easily pay off, even though we don't raise the money. I think that partly answered, but that's the challenge that we are facing. To what extent we want to accommodate the requirement of this, just because of this purchase undertaking at par or at market value. Of course, they will argue because of this, you have, we don't take sometimes guarantee, capital protection structure. Number 2 is what?
Is we have restricted ratio for your entity situation. How about that? How was estimate?
Oh, okay, sorry. Yes, I told you. I think the most it goes is maybe 1.5 times. We never reach 2 times. Yeah, sometimes just 1.1. Wherever we achieve, we just take everything. Okay, because it's not easy. Of course, at the price that we want. Because sometimes the investor, are you from the investment side, by the way? Okay. By the way, on behalf of IDB, thanks to the 𝗜𝗙 for your strong support. Hopefully, after this talk, more order come to you at better price. Because this order from Central Bank is very vital. Whenever we open the book, okay, we announce the deal, we really need to see the book grows quickly. Okay, this high quality investor, real money investor, they put the money there. We really need to do that. Even investor, it should give reflection to the investor. Oh, IDB go to the market, so the orders come from the real money investor. They're looking for the high quality investor. This really support our issuances. Yes, even INCEIF can buy some of our Sukuk. Okay, that's much more. Even in Brunei, because apparently they come and go. I'm not really sure why really that. Is it because of the yield or what? But of course, recently we visited them and they start coming into the, maybe because of the awareness sometimes. Okay, because at the end they still have the portfolio for the AAA, which I always told the investor, we are the AAA offering the pickup for the yield. Okay, you buy other NDBs and we add on 15 basis point or 13 basis point above that. As long as we are still in this territory, it should be good. Okay, you should take this advantage because we will reach for sure, inshallah. At one time, it's at par with other MDBs Okay. With your dua, of course. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for. Sorry. But do you mind answering a few questions, online questions that we have?
Oh, okay, please.
At least 2 more questions before the time. The
Online kau
Yes, I'll read out the questions. So one of our guests was asking that since you did mention about the European Union investors from the Europe, how the Sharia compliance assurance is executed if you want to invest, people from Europe want to invest, how is it, how is the compliance assurance is executed?
Oh, whenever you buy a Sukuk or any bond, the investor, they don't sign the agreement with you direct because we don't face the investor. Investor may be 100 investor. We just face with the JLN, the joint lead manager. So they are the counterparty for the signing of the document. So whenever they buy, they go through this JLN who represent them as agent to buy the Sukuk on our behalf, on their behalf.
Okay, thank you. I think that answers the one last question. There's one final question. I think he asked for quite a while back. He's waiting to be answered. He's asking that how does ISDB strategy to attract private investors and investors from other members, other countries? What's the...
Yeah, this... for this, I always use the argument investing in IDB papers or other MDBs is not about the monetary, financial, economic per se. It's go beyond that. You go to the people, to the social part and the green part. Because all these 3 pillars exist in IDB operation. So if your consideration is only for commercial, IDB paper, especially the AAA, is difficult for them because profit maximization is the fundamental for them. But in IDB, MDBs in general, our operation by default is social. Because you open the financing portfolio, even the 17 SDG goal 2030, I think we can tick almost all the boxes to 17, if not 15 or 14, because all these 2 red align to fix this, the 2 commercial part, which eventually resulted in the gap between the rich and poor. So indirectly, IDB present, MDB present, is to close this gap to the extent possible. That's why extending concessional financing is vital for us. If we remove this, there's a single A, I think we are not relevant anymore. That's my view, of course, subject to challenge, to debate.
The bank is still good for this. They've explained good increase on such an bias.
Yes.
I think we can close the Q&A session for now due to the time constraint. We thank the speaker for giving a very insightful conversation, and as well the culture from Mozambique. I would like to invite from the top CEO there is to hand a gift for our dear speaker.
Let's do that. Yes.